There's a change in the Eastern Conference bubble, and does anybody want to win the Pacific Division? Welcome to NHL Wraparound Short Shift for Friday, March 20th, 2026. Vic Morren, Neil Smith, first day of spring, and we are no more than 92 days away from crowning what we think will be a new Stanley Cup champion, with all due respect to the Florida Panthers still being mathematically alive.
Yeah, they are. They're still alive, and they showed Edmonton that last night, that's for sure, with a shutout win right in Edmonton. And you got to start wondering about the Oilers.
We're going to get to the Oilers, but not for a little bit. And I think a lot of people like to think that perhaps we have some sort of bias towards the East. And the only reason that we tend to start with them is because the quality of play, or at least the winningness, is more gravitated towards the Eastern Conference, save for the three big teams in the Central Division. The cutoff point heading into this weekend in the Eastern Conference is set by the Bruins and the Red Wings at 99.8 points. Rounded up. That's 100. In the West, being set by the LA Kings at 86.8. Unbelievable that there is a 13-point difference in the cutoff point between the two conferences.
Yeah, and it's really incredible. I don't remember ever seeing a spread this different from one conference to the other. But, you know, we've been looking at goal differential too all season, and it's very evident that two teams in the West are going to make the playoffs with a minus goal differential. And that rarely happens. So it's just been a real odd year in a lot of ways.
Let's start off in the Eastern Conference, where we have a change. You remember the Columbus Blue Jackets were in last in the Eastern Conference on January 12th. They are now 17-2-4 under Rick Bowness, 7-0-4 in their last 11 after a 6-3 win over the New York Rangers. And they are now the third place team in the Metropolitan Division, replacing the New York Islanders, who actually dropped to Wild Card 3. We'll talk about the Islanders in a second. But Neil, one of the biggest things that Bowness was looking at when he took the club over was to improve their defense. They had given away a lot of points in the third period, and they are now showing the ability to lock things down. And it is shown that they wake up this morning in a wild card spot.
And they've also got Jet Greaves playing the best hockey of his career up to this point. And Rick Bowness has changed that team drastically. They blew so many games late before Rick Bowness showed up. And since he's been there, it's been a totally different team. You don't want them to get the lead on you because they don't give it up as easily as they used to.
Funny thing is had they not blown those points, first of all, the coaching change never takes place. And if they had held on to those points, they would actually be fighting for the top of the Eastern Conference, not just a wild card or trying to come in the top three in the Metro.
Yeah, but you know what? This is such a strange year because both the Buffalo Sabres, non-playoffs for 14 years, and the Columbus Blue Jackets, who, let's face it, haven't made the playoffs in a while, both of these teams suddenly woke up during the season. It looked like the Sabres were headed towards a 15th straight non-playoff year. Then all of a sudden, Lindy Ruff and that group really woke up, and they've been like a freight train ever since. And when the coaching change was made, as you said, by Don Waddell in Columbus, Dean Evison goes out, Rick Bowness comes in, a complete turnaround of the Blue Jackets, and they got to be scaring the Islanders, the Bruins, the Red Wings, all of these teams that are fighting around the bubble. The Columbus Blue Jackets are putting a monkey wrench into their plans.
We talked about who they replaced in the Metropolitan Division, and that being the New York Islanders, who are out of a playoff spot for the first time since December 4th. They lose 3-2 in Ottawa. What a bookend performance by Brady Tkachuk. They lost in Washington on Wednesday, and Tkachuk thought maybe the team was a little bit lethargic, and he fights the opposing captain, Anders Lee of the New York Islanders exactly 1 second into the game, and then gets the game winner with 13 seconds left in regulation. The stunning thing here, Neil, is that earlier in the season, you had made the point that you believed a lot of teams that were in tie games in the last 5 to 10 minutes of regulation were playing to get the game into overtime to secure a point. However, in this game, given the urgency level, you could see the Senators wanted to win this game in regulation and played for it, while the Islanders were just trying to get this game into overtime. And the Senators outshot them 11-1, and they deserved this victory.
And, you know, earlier in the season, and I think still to some extent, teams breathe a sigh of relief when the buzzer goes and the game is tied because they know they're at least getting a point. But with the Ottawa Senators and the other teams that are clustered together, they got to win these games, get the 2 points, and not allow the opposition to get one, because they don't want to move up by 1 point. They want to move up by two, and that was very evident with Ottawa. I thought in that game, the national anthem was rousing to the crowd at Canadian Tire Center, and then Brady Tkachuk, after playing the night before in Washington, the Islanders sitting in the Ottawa hotel, probably watching the game. Brady Tkachuk, the captain, comes out and says, "Well, I'll get everything going." 1 second in, he fights Anders Lee, and that's certainly got an electric buzz going in the building.
And one final note from that Senators-Islanders game, rookie phenom Matthew Schaefer becomes the youngest defenseman in NHL history to reach 50 points. At 18 years and 195 days, Phil Housley was the other 18-year-old to hit that mark. He did so as a member of the Buffalo Sabres in 1982-83. Now, another key game on Thursday. Detroit beats Montreal 3-1. They score 3 goals in the third period. Alex DeBrincat with the game-winning goal with 3:25 left after a mishandle by Mike Matheson of the Canadiens. And also, Boston, very workmanlike effort. They defeat Winnipeg 6-1. 6 different goal scorers for the Bruins, Neil. So where this lands, Montreal still in third in the Atlantic, 84 points, same as Boston and Detroit, who occupy the 2 wildcard spots.
Yeah, it is just unbelievable, and it's going to change night to night. Boston is another one of these teams that we don't talk about enough because nobody expected this season from this team. Nobody expected Pittsburgh to have the season they're having. Nobody expected the Islanders to have the season they're having. And on a negative note, the team the Bruins beat, nobody expected the Winnipeg Jets to be this bad of a season. This has been atrocious for the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets. And you got to feel heartfelt for Scott Arniel, who in his first year coaching following Rick Bowness wins the President's Trophy. And now in his second year, they go right down to the bottom of the league. So it's something that's very peculiar in a very peculiar year that we're watching the NHL.
Well, we're going to hit the one other team in the East right now in terms of this bubble, and that's the Pittsburgh Penguins, because they have 84 points. They are second currently. They trail Carolina by 8. And on Wednesday night, they played one of the wilder games of the season, losing 6-5 in overtime on a goal by Scott Walker for the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes led this game 4 different times. Pittsburgh went ahead on a goal by very impressive rookie Ben Kindle with 4:51 left. AndreMiller tied it exactly 2 minutes later, setting up the heroics for Walker. But where this all lands, Neil, we have 6 teams within 1 point of each other. Montreal, third in the Atlantic. Pittsburgh, second in the Metro. Columbus, third in the Metro. Boston, Detroit, Islanders, 84, 84, 83. It's so close, it's almost difficult to decipher.
And you can't, let alone take a game off, let alone take a period off. You can't take a shift off when it's that close. You've got to play completely at pedal to the metal every night because it is that close. And if you want to get into the playoffs, as all those teams do, obviously, you got to go out every shift and give it everything you've got.
Another team trying to push their way in, the Philadelphia Flyers, who trail Ottawa. The Senators are wild card 4 with 79 points. The Flyers have 78, and they picked up 2 wins beyond 60 minutes. First in Anaheim on Wednesday in overtime, and then they won in a shootout against the LA Kings on Thursday. They are 5 points out of third place in the Metropolitan Division and 6 points out in the wild card. So there are 2 paths here for the Flyers, but in either scenario, they have a lot of teams to jump, and that's what's going to make this so difficult, particularly with 3-point games.
Absolutely. And the other thing is too is that, you know, we got so many teams involved that eventually these teams have to play each other.
Yeah.
So they can't all keep gaining points because they're gonna play what we call 4-point games, where you win, you get 2, but you lose, you don't get the 2. It is just really close and would take a Herculean effort at this point, I believe, to be able to bang your way through.
I think the bigger thing is just the number of points and the number of other things that you need to have go right. But as has happened with Ottawa, as has happened with Columbus, you just got to keep winning. So let's exhale and go to the top of the Eastern Conference, most specifically the Atlantic Division, where on Thursday, 2 very impressive wins for the Buffalo Sabres and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Buffalo winning 5-0 in San Jose really schooled the Sharks. They have 92 points, and they sit in first place. Sam Carrick, 2 goals. Alex Lyon, 23 saves shutout. Tampa Bay Lightning, 6-2 win at Vancouver. Nikita Kucherov has 36 multi-point games. He had 3 more points on Thursday. He trails Connor McDavid 115 to 114 in the scoring race, and he has played 7 fewer games.
He's just amazing to watch. He's one of my favorite players in the league to watch game to game. And when we had Brian Engblom on, Vic, he was very illustrative of who Kucherov is and how much he hones his profession down and his practice work ethic and everything. An amazing guy. But the Buffalo Sabres as well. What an amazing story. As you said, 92 points when the beginning of the season we were going like, here comes the 15th year of non-playoffs. That's not going to happen. They're going to end this drought at 14 years, and who knows what they could do in the playoffs. There's such an unknown. They've come out of nowhere. They could really make trouble in the Eastern Conference playoffs.
I'm going to have some news for you at the end of the show when I share some results from a YouTube poll that we are currently running. So just to wrap up with Tampa Bay, they have 88 points, 4 behind the Sabres. They have played 2 fewer games. But right now, that first tiebreaker goes to the Sabres. That regulation win column, 36 wins for the Sabres, 33 for Tampa Bay. Let's go west. And on Wednesday night, the big game between the Titans, the Dallas Stars, and the Colorado Avalanche, and it played out as advertised, ended up as a 2-1 shootout win for the Stars, who are now 15-1-1 in their last 17. They cut the Avalanche deficit to 2 points. Avs have 98, Dallas has 96. The Avs have played 1 fewer game, and they do have the regulation win tiebreaker. Wyatt Johnston, shootout winner. Jason Robertson, his 37th goal. Jake Gottinger had 33 saves. But I thought the Avalanche actually were the better team in this game, and Nathan MacKinnon had called out his club on both sides of the puck, not only the defensemen, but the forwards as well. And I do think that you may start to see this team get on a little bit of a run again. It was a good effort by the Avs, albeit in the shootout loss.
Yeah, and the Dallas Stars, of course, who seem invincible until the Utah Mammoth comes into Dallas, and then they look very ordinary. But they've had a great run, and beating Colorado, however you can beat them, is something to be proud of. You're right about the Avs; they've slowed down in their last month or so, and they're going to have to tighten up defensively without any doubt. Now, they were tight defensively against Dallas, but Dallas just happened to, win the shootout. But if they're going to continue to, go for the President's Trophy, which it looks like they are, and then be the favorite for the Stanley Cup, they are going to have to match their great offensive abilities with great defensive abilities.
The lone goal for the Avs came off the stick of Cale Makar. It was a power play goal, and the Avs have moved from 32nd on the power play in the NHL up to 29th. But it's interesting because you had mentioned Kucherov before in the discussion that we had with Brian Engblom, and how Kucherov doesn't only have to score, but it's got to look right. And I think the Avs are in a little bit of that phase right now because you watch them play. They pass a lot on the perimeter. There's a lot of missed shots. And to coin the phrase, very often they're trying to force pucks into the middle and try to pass it into the net. And I think that's part of the issue that they're having right now.
Yeah, I think you get a skilled team like Colorado or Tampa at times, and they're trying to paint a Picasso every time
Yep.
they're on the power play. And really, all you want is a grungy, old, dirty power play goal. Get it from in the blue paint. It doesn't have to be, tap, 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 and then into the net. So I'm sure they're going to straighten that out. And, again, when the playoffs come, all these stats that we give out of what they are on the power play and what they are in penalty kill doesn't matter anymore because it starts over.
What do they say about art? And especially when it comes to scoring goals, you can paint a Picasso or you can have an elephant throw fruit against canvas. As long as it gets in the net, doesn't matter what it looks like.
That's absolutely true.
Third place in the Central, the Minnesota Wild. After losing to the Chicago Blackhawks 2-1, this was a game that Kirill Kaprizov sat out with a lower body injury. He is listed as day-to-day. The Wild have 90 points, and as we have continued to mention, it looks more and more like they're going to be the third-place team among those three powerhouses in the Central.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing the playoff format, but boy, oh boy, it just would drive me nuts if I was GM of one of those three and knowing that one of them is going to get knocked out in the first round. It has to be. Even if Dallas overtakes Colorado, then it's Colorado, Minnesota. If Dallas can't overtake Colorado, then it's going to be Dallas, Minnesota, and somebody's going down. So it's a shame because these are three of the very elite teams in the league.
Well, the reasoning for this also is because if you go over to the Pacific, where the Anaheim Ducks lead that division with 78 points, they would be wild card 5 in the Eastern Conference. And you talk about a slow crawl to the finish. What about on Thursday night? The Edmonton Oilers, who are in second with 77 points, get shut out by the Florida Panthers. I mean, you talk about the shine coming off that matchup. Sergei Bobrovsky, his 53rd shutout and 21 saves in that game for the Panthers. And the Golden Knights lose 4-0 to Utah. Clayton Keller with 2 goals. Kara Vamelka with the shutout. The Mammoths score on their first 3 shots against Adin Hill. And the Golden Knights are 3-7-0 in their last 10.
And you've got to mention, Vic, that game was in Vegas. I mean, that's in their own barn. Edmonton beaten by Florida in their own barn. I mean, these are bad losses, especially at home. Sometimes you fall asleep on the road and nobody notices and you get thumped like that, but you can't do that at home. And it seems to me that Edmonton has been, losing all season long home games that you would expect them to win in years past. And Vegas is a team that in the beginning of the year, they looked like they were a powerhouse. They sure don't look like a powerhouse coming down the stretch here. And you saw it again being beaten by Utah, although Utah, to give them credit, we just talked about how the only regulation loss that Dallas has in a long time was to Utah, and that was in Dallas.
Those Utah Mammoth, wild card one, and it looks like they are really starting to nestle there because they have 78 points, which, oh, by the way, would be tied with Anaheim for number one in the Pacific. But they have a 7-point hold on a wild card position, and the Mammoths / Coyotes have not been to the playoffs in quite a while. So really good job done by Andre Tourigny and his Mammoth. So in the second wild card, the LA Kings, we mentioned that they lost the shootout to the Flyers on Thursday. They have 72 points. Behind them, Seattle Kraken and the Nashville Predators, both with 71. They played against each other on Thursday, and a big 3-1 win for the Predators. Those two teams, identical records, 31, 28, and 9. But the bigger news coming out of this game, Neil, not only did Philip Forsberg factor in on all 3 goals, but Jussi Saros was unable to play in this game due to an upper body injury. So Justus Annunen was forced into play. Very good 25 save effort.
You know, the Nashville Predators have been one of the surprising teams this year. I think after their dreadful season last year and not making a lot of changes, people assumed that they would be a non-playoff team again. But there's something good going on in their locker room. Andrew Brunette is still the coach. He was the coach for the bad season. He's the coach for this season. I am surprised by them, but they're making life miserable for some of these teams that are trying to get into that last wild card spot.
Rounding out the race in the Western Wild Card, San Jose, 70 points, but they've only played 67 games, and they've got games at hand on everybody above them. So despite their loss to Buffalo on Thursday, still some ground that they can make up. And then the Winnipeg Jets with 67 points and 14 games left to play. Let's hit some personnel notes. Sidney Crosby was back for the Penguins in their loss against Carolina, had a goal and an assist and 4 penalty minutes after missing 11 games, getting hurt in the Olympics. Tyler Toffoli of the San Jose Sharks did not return after suffering a lower body injury in the loss to Buffalo on Thursday. Got hurt in the first period. Trent Frederick of the Oilers left that loss against Florida with, guess what, Neil? What kind of injury?
Lower body, upper body?
No, undisclosed, because it's the Oilers.
Oh, yes. They're very tender, their players in the undisclosed area.
Very tender indeed. Some other news coming out of Edmonton, which broke on Thursday afternoon. Leon Draisaitl now on LTIR. He has to miss at least 10 games and 24 days before he can return. So I think the Oilers are saying all the right things here, that they are hopeful that Draisaitl might be able to play even before the end of the regular season, but probably targeting the opening night of the playoffs.
The Oilers are going to have to play a lot better than they've been playing lately if they want to continue to stay where they are, because like oil, they'll start slipping.
It hasn't been good. Toronto Maple Leafs captain Auston Matthews underwent successful MCL surgery on his left knee that took place on Thursday. Recovery time is about 12 weeks, so that would take him into mid-July. But I think there's a little bit more to this, Neil, because for the last 2 seasons, Matthews hasn't appeared right. He's played those 2 international tournaments, meaning the Olympics and the Four Nations before that. He's been to the playoffs year after year with the Maple Leafs, and maybe this is an opportunity for him not only to heal his knee, but whatever other malady has been bothering him over the last 1 or 2 seasons.
Yeah, and we don't know what that is because, of course, it's the same as the Oilers. It's undisclosed, but he hasn't been the same player. Is it mental? Is it physical? We don't know. Certainly, he does have a physical injury now that he's got 12. He's going to sit around for 12 weeks recuperating with and then start playing summer hockey.
Potentially some good news for the Detroit Red Wings. Captain Dylan Larkin took part in Thursday morning's pregame skate. He has missed the last 6 games with a lower body injury. And a little bit of a family note here. Cole Hudson, defenseman for the Washington Capitals, made his debut against Ottawa on Wednesday. He is the brother of Lane of Montreal and Quinn of the Edmonton Oilers. And he scored an empty net goal to seal the Caps' 4-1 win over those Senators. But the point that I wanted to make here is it always goes back to the selflessness of NHL players. The game was 3-1, and Hudson was coming down on a 3-on-1 towards an empty net with Alex Ovechkin, who had scored his 922nd goal earlier in the game, and Connor McMichael. And McMichael motioned to him not to pass and to go towards that empty net and shoot and score, which he did. And I just thought it was a great thing for his first NHL goal with those two players alongside him.
Well, and if you get to see the replay of that goal, you should take a look because McMichael makes it obvious he's pointing with his finger, his index finger. Shoot it, shoot it.
Yeah.
Do not give it up to us. So he wears number 44 in Washington. Interesting, 44 for him and 48 for his brother in Montreal.
The New York Islanders AHL affiliate will be moving from Bridgeport to Hamilton, Ontario, pending approval from the AHL Board of Governors. They will play in the TD Coliseum, formerly the Cops Coliseum, and that building has recently undergone a $300 million renovation. So for Matthew Darsh, if he wants to call players up now, it's not right down the road anymore.
No, it sure isn't. And if they're going to continue to have that franchise as their affiliate, we'll have to see in years to come, because usually NHL teams now are having affiliates very close to their home ice so that there's not a lot of cost and travel for players that they're calling up or sending down.
Remember last Friday, we had made mention of the Rhode Island Division II hockey tournament and Colin Dorgan, who had lost 3 family members in a shooting on senior night. He lost his mom, brother, and his grandfather at the hands of the alleged shooter, who was his father, who also wound up taking his own life.
I remember it well.
We promised to update you on the championship game that was played in Providence on Wednesday. And the Blackstone Valley Co-op Knights played against Lincoln. Dorgan had scored 2 goals in the clinching game of the quarterfinal round. He scored in double overtime to get the team into the championship game. And in that title game, Dorgan tied the score with 33 seconds left in regulation, and then his teammate, Jackson Boyes, scored in quadruple overtime to give Blackstone Valley its first ever championship by a 3-2 score. Dorgan had only scored 2 goals in his entire high school career before scoring 4 during the course of this tournament. What a phenomenal story for this young man.
Well, it's a great story and certainly something that'll be a life achievement for him. I just can't imagine what's in store for him as far as that tragedy and the toll it'll take on his mental health. But it's good that this has happened, and I hope that he has a wonderful life, even with what happened to his family.
The Knights uniform is adopted from that of the Vegas Golden Knights. And while he was interviewing after the game, Dorgan received a signed jersey from the Golden Knights, courtesy of their outstanding TV play-by-play man, Dave Gosher. So the support continues to roll in. He has also been backed from the very start of this by his head coach, Chris Labrizzi, who was supposed to be retiring and stayed on with the club. Also, his sister, Ava. But, this is really where the hard part begins here, because the adrenaline to come back and play hockey, and then this unbelievable run, which you couldn't even have scripted. And now you're into this afterglow, which is going to wear off at some point. And this is really where he's going to need the ongoing support of his coaches, of his sister, and of the teammates that helped him achieve this phenomenal goal.
You're absolutely right. He's going to need a lot of support for a very long time, probably for the rest of his life. He's going to need support because that tragedy that happened is going to stay living with him forever. So let's hope that he gets the amount of support he's going to need, and that he can go on and have, as I said before, have a good life.
The weekend has 25 games on tap, 5 games on Friday, the best of the bunch, Anaheim at Utah. On Saturday, pretty daytime heavy card. The best games, Dallas at Minnesota, Buffalo at LA, Seattle at Columbus, the Islanders at Montreal. And they are kind of getting those games out of the way for the primetime game on ABC between Boston at Detroit and also Tampa Bay at Edmonton. And then you return to UBS Arena on Sunday, where there are 9 games, among them Columbus and the New York Islanders. Couldn't be a bigger game for you to be going to.
Well, that's going to be a good one. Don Waddell and Rick Bowness will be there against Matthew Darch and Patrick Waugh. That's a really important game to both those teams, so it's going to be a fun one to watch.
Also on Sunday, look for Carolina at Pittsburgh, Vegas at Dallas, Buffalo at Anaheim, and the LA Kings at Utah. That will wrap up our show. Reach us individually at neil@NHLWraparound.com or Vic at NHLWraparound.com. All of our shows are on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and YouTube. Leave a review, or if you are on YouTube, please subscribe. We are now starting to run some polls there, Neil. And interestingly, we have one up there which has gotten about 250 votes so far, about what is, or who is, the most dangerous team in the NHL right now. Not who's going to win the Stanley Cup, but who is most dangerous. And the 4 clubs to vote on: Buffalo, Carolina, Dallas, and the Colorado Avalanche. Guess which team, in the eyes of the voters, is the most dangerous?
I'll bet you they're saying the Sabres.
Well, somebody's stuffing some ballot boxes there, because 88% say Buffalo is the most dangerous team in the league right now. And realistically, who could argue with them? Our website, NHLWraparound.com. In our blog section, New York-centric, from Patrick Hoffman and his latest. And as Neil likes to say, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And you remember the New York Rangers had that nice-looking 4-game winning streak? Well, now it's turned into a 3-game losing streak. So check out what Patrick has to say there. Smith's picks, 7-3-1 on Thursday evening for Mr. Neil, and he is 201 games over 500 for the season.
I know you don't want to hear about this blind squirrel finding a nut, or the
You're right.
broken clock that's right twice a day, but we'll continue to do it till the end of the season.
On the website and on audio. And finally, little schedule change. NHL Wraparound will come to you this Monday. And our special guest, Penguins radio and TV analyst, and somebody you know pretty well, Neil, Phil Bourque.
Stanley Cup champion Phil Bourque.
Enjoy the hockey this weekend, and we'll look forward to speaking with you on NHL Wraparound on Monday. Take care.